Do you want to make games? Join the WVU Game Developers Club. They meet every Thursday at 6:30 in the Evansdale Crossing, room 412. No prior experience is necessary. They help you make your first game, regardless of what background you have. Everyone is welcome. You can check them out on Twitter at WVUGDC. Also check out their Facebook page. We hope to see you there. Hey, and welcome to Game Talk episode 20. I'm your host, Ahmed Mian. Today I'm joined by Michael.
Hello.
And Connor.
Hey, guys.
And our first topic today is going to be talking about getting people who don't know anything about video games into video games. I'm sure everyone who listens to this show and all of us have had an experience or two where we're really passionate about playing video games, but someone we're close to doesn't know anything about them or doesn't care for them, and we really try to get them on board with something we love. So I kind of wanted to just throw that out there. Something we talked about last week, narrative games. I think those are a really good bridge for people who don't know anything about games to get into them.
I kind of agree with that, but I don't see somebody like jumping from narrative games to shooters or to Mario or something.
Exactly.
So like I don't know if it really gets them into gaming. It just gets them into
that
narrative
genre.
Games. Yeah.
So what do you think how do you think you could get them into other genres of games, and have you in the past?
Yeah, a little. I think like you have your like classic go-tos. Like anybody can pick up and play a Super Mario game, probably like New Super Mario Bros. That's how I got my little brother into gaming.
So something that's like mechanically simple but very like has a lot of depth to it.
Yeah, and I feel like any like in more recent games like Yoshi's Woolly World is like co-op, and the newer New Super Mario Bros. Games are co-op, so they can like play it with you, and like if they're having trouble, it's not that big a deal. You can still progress, and they have like plenty of freedom to like figure out the controls and stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely one avenue. Another one, and personally one that's worked for me, it's not really on the mechanically simple side, more so on like the cinematic side. So games like Uncharted, for example. A lot of my friends who don't play games, like if they see me playing Uncharted, their eyes like attracted to it, and they're like, "Ooh, what's that? It looks like a movie." That's something they say a lot. It looks like a movie, you know. Movie is something everyone can relate to, and if the game can kind of be that bridge that if the game can be movie-esque, then it's easier for someone to relate to it and get into it.
Right, but I'd be hesitant to have somebody start on really any 3D game except for like Super Mario World. What is it? The Wii U Mario game.
New Super Mario Bros. U.
No, Super Mario 3D World.
3D World.
Thank you. Yeah. So like, people have a ton of trouble controlling, like doing DualShock controls or dual stick controls when they first start. Controlling a camera is generally like hard for somebody to figure out.
That's a really good point to bring up. Yeah, I've had several people complain that like, how are you supposed to control like? A lot of people can either control like where they move or where they look, and not both simultaneously. That's like a learned skill.
Yeah, like I know people that can like beat me at Super Smash Bros. Regularly. Like they just cream me, but they can't play Breath of the Wild or any first-person shooter or any game like that because they can't figure out the camera. Like they can do anything in 2D. They can't walk and use a camera at the same time.
And another thing for people who are kind of unfamiliar with games, starting in first person, I think, is more difficult.
Yeah,
than being in third person.
Because they're looking for what they're controlling.
Yeah.
And in first person, you can't see that. Like as a kid, I couldn't play a first person game. I couldn't figure it out.
Right.
Like it just was too weird for me.
And it's definitely it's weird to talk about this kind of stuff because, right, as we are now, it's just second nature. But you can imagine if someone's never seen a video game before, just the notion of like two separate, like using your left hand to move and your right hand to move the camera.
That's kind of like
a very
your
alien thing to do.
Pat your head and rub your belly situation. It can be. Yeah, I think there are some games that are good to like introduce people to that though. Like I would say a lot of earlier like N64 era games because they were still trying to teach how to use a camera back then. So like your Zelda, Ocarina of Time, or Majora's Mask, your Super Mario 64.
Right.
Because people like developers were still figuring out the camera, so naturally players were. Any PlayStation stuff too, like Spyro. Anything where you have to control
Like the early
camera,
platformers and stuff.
Yeah. Or like a slower game like, don't start them with Call of Duty, start them with Portal. Like a game where they don't have to be able to do it quickly.
You know what's interesting is, I mean, I don't know how many of us know, like, younger people who are into games, but, like, the couple I know seem to have gotten their start with Minecraft.
Which
I think
that's
a lot
an
of
awfully
kids,
complicated game.
a lot of kids get their first game experience to be Minecraft nowadays. And, I mean, just looking at that from my, like, breadth of game knowledge, Minecraft's a pretty complex first game to play. Certainly more complex than the first game I ever played.
I mean, especially early on, because it didn't tell you how to craft anything.
Yeah.
Early on. And it still doesn't in-game, I don't think. Not really.
I think it does now. They just updated it with that.
Okay. But back when I played it, like, you just kind of had to memorize all the crafting,
Yeah,
which
that was like an
ridiculous.
older mechanic. They definitely have, like, included blueprints now and everything.
Okay.
But, yeah, like, I think that, like, smaller kids are just really drawn to Minecraft for whatever reason. I don't know if it's like the aesthetic or just like the creativity that you can, because it's like I feel like it's the modern day equivalent of like playing with Legos.
Yeah.
Almost.
Oh yeah. I think there's an interesting point there too, though, that a little kid will learn a lot faster, I think, than like
That's true.
somebody in their 20s that you're trying to get into games. Like they're a little kid, like, I don't know, they're used to having trouble with stuff, I guess. You grab somebody in their 20s and they're going to get frustrated and
True.
things like that. Or potentially, not everybody, but kids just learn quick. So I definitely think you can... I would start an adult on a mechanically simple game and a kid on whatever they're interested in.
Yeah, whatever they want to play.
Yeah.
There's also things that are called like dad games, like Civ. All the Paradox Grand Strategies are all considered like dad games, or games that you show your dad, and your dad would play for hours upon hours upon hours.
I agree with that, because those are like, they're not mechanically simple, but they're like board games almost.
They're very in-depth, and you can get really lost in the mechanics, and I have before several hundred times.
Right, like for Civilization, with example, ultimately all you're doing is pointing and clicking things.
Yeah.
Everyone who's used like a web browser can wrap their heads around that. So yeah, I could see why that it doesn't seem intuitive that something as complex as Civilization could be like a first video game for someone. But if they're into strategic things and like they're familiar with using a mouse, I mean, why not, right?
Same with an RTS. RTSs could also be a very nice first game.
See, I'm not sure an RTS would be, though, because I think Civ is good because, like, they can take their sweet time figuring things out and all, and there's no penalty for that. But with an RTS, like, it's time sensitive. With any action game, it's very time sensitive. Like, there are penalties for them sitting there playing with the controls.
Yeah, but most RTSs are very, especially like, I'm going to use StarCraft example because, it's one of the better ones out there right now. Its campaign is variable speed, so you can play it as slow as you want, or you can play it at very fast, which is multiplayer speed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you could play it to where it's very slow, or you could play it where everything moves at multiplayer speeds. I think I play the campaign around normal, but I could just turn it up to multiplayer speeds because I could handle that.
Huh.
But you could choose.
I do think for someone who's just getting into games, having something that doesn't have like strict time confinements is good. Like, you're trying to get them into something. You don't want to scare them away with like how hard something could be or like how punishing certain systems are. And that's why I really like your Civilization example, because you could just take as long as you want every turn. The game really does just move at whatever pace you want it to.
Unless you're playing multiplayer, which case you'll anger everyone if you take 4 hours per turn, because people have lives and they don't want to wait 4 hours for you to do your thing.
So you brought up multiplayer games. With how popular Fortnite is right now and how mainstream it is right now, you'd imagine that some people's first game might more than likely be Fortnite.
Oh, I've seen a lot of people who've a lot of guys who've gotten their girlfriends into Fortnite is what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Like,
and that to me is just crazy. Like, yeah, we said third-person controls are more intuitive than first-person controls, but a game is fast-paced and frenetic, and and complex as Fortnite being your first video game, it's just mind-boggling to me.
Right. But at the same time, there's a good chance that they've spent a fair number of hours watching their boyfriend play it.
That's true, yeah.
Or their boyfriend or girlfriend, their significant other playing it. And like I was really into this is sort of related. I was really into a game called Don't Starve for a while. And my girlfriend at the time was just hanging out while I was playing it all the time. And eventually she started telling me I was doing everything wrong, And she was right. She ended up being better at the game than me without ever having played it, just because it was like she got interested in it, looked stuff up on the internet.
And that's a really good point you bring up. And I feel like that's kind of how kids get into Minecraft too. Like YouTube is a very accessible thing for pretty much everyone. And I think a lot of these kids see videos of Minecraft on YouTube and then, just try it out themselves.
Yeah. I think the more I think about Minecraft, the crazier it is as a first game. Because, like, if you're having trouble with the controls, like, the clock starts instantly. Like, you have to find food. You have to get shelter before you get attacked.
Unless, I guess they could start in creative mode or
they
something.
Could. But, yeah, I feel like a lot of kids wouldn't. Like, because they're going to want to fight zombies and stuff.
Yeah, there's a very real appeal to just starting out in a random world and, like, beating down your first tree to get wood.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think... I think Fortnite's not the worst first game in the world, though. Because, like, I mean, the core loop of Fortnite's very simple. Like, you drop, you find guns, you shoot people. Like, unless...
I'm just imagining, like, the volume of skilled people, like, playing Fortnite. Like, so many of the people who play Fortnite have been playing video games for years, Like, how is someone who just jumps into a third-person shooter for the first time going to... I mean, I'm sure they can still have fun, but they're not going to have much success for a long time, I imagine.
I mean, I've seen people that, as far as I know, were not gamers until very recently posting wins in Fortnite on Twitter and stuff. Like, it happens.
That's
like,
crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe they just pick something up that they are naturally good at.
Strategy's important. I mean, it's more than one person. Like, and, like, a lot of them are complaining about not getting wins, but they're, like, second place or third place. Like,
yeah.
Still, like, way better than I'm doing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've been playing video games for pretty much since I was born, and I've only won 2 games of Fortnite.
But there's also a small chance that, like, these people have played games for a long time, and it just wasn't cool, so they didn't talk about it, And I just didn't know.
Could be.
You've only won, like, 2 games? I've won several now.
The explosives mode doesn't count.
I've won several outside of explosives mode.
I've never gotten in the top 10, so...
My first, like, solo game, I was top 10, like, number 4 or something.
Wait. I'm Michael. I'm good at video games.
I'm trash at video games. That's the thing.
I think you just got insanely lucky then, because there's no
I'm
way.
very good at hiding in bushes.
Okay.
Bush strat carried me to my first almost solo victory.
That explains that.
Otherwise, you give me a rocket launcher and it's all over.
One game I want to call out in particular that has been very successful in getting some of my friends who don't know about games playing is Until Dawn. Until Dawn's like it's a horror game in which the premise is like 8 teenagers stay in a cabin in the woods overnight, and there's a serial killer present, and there's like choices you make, and like depending on how you play the game, all 8 of the kids could die by the end, or all 8 could survive, or any permutation of them could live or die.
Right.
And
I've heard of it. It's a very cool game.
Yeah, and that in particular, I often, when it came out, get groups together, and we'd all just sit down and like play through all like 7 hours of it, and everyone would have a blast. And for a lot of these friends, it was their first time ever touching a controller, and like a lot of the game is based off of like quick time events and like stuff like that, but good chunks of it, you're moving characters around. Granted, you don't have any control of the camera, so it's more simple for someone who doesn't have experience to do that sort of thing, but like it was a good gateway into video games.
Right. I think another really good gateway is I don't know if it's a good gateway into video games. I think that's yet to be seen, but virtual reality, it tends to be like you can hand VR to anybody and they're going to figure it out in a couple minutes.
That's
like,
actually you bring up an excellent point. Like
I put my sister in a headset and gave her Super Hot, and I told her what the buttons do, and she was fine. Like, and she does not game at all.
I've given VR to someone who's never even touched a game before, period. Like, VR was their first gaming experience, as wild as that is to think.
That's crazy.
And, as it's inherently intuitive for the most part. I mean, some things can be
Yeah, I mean, the well-designed games, like, yeah.
But like the great thing about VR is it replaces the right stick on the controller with your head. You know, you just need to look around.
Right.
You don't have to manipulate another thumbstick to do that. So like the combination of moving with the stick and looking around with your head is way more intuitive to people who haven't touched a controller before.
Right. Also, just in room scale VR, they're just walking around interacting with things.
Right, that's even better.
Yeah.
Just while we're on the topic of VR, do you guys think that VR is going to be a huge like gateway point for people into games?
I think it will, because you see all these, like, people putting Gear VR on their grandma and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very cool, like, novelty right now, but in, like, 10 years when VR is just another way of consuming media or playing a game or whatever.
I have a hard time thinking anybody's going to buy VR and only watch movies on it. Like...
Well, there's such a thing as VR movies, right? They're like these artsy short films in VR where you're like...
Yeah, where it's 360.
You can look around and stuff.
I just don't know that that's going to be, like, compelling enough to push the price point of VR. Like, I don't know. We'll see. That's a really tough prediction to make, I think.
But yeah, I think that's a really cool insight, how, like, the VR has the potential to attract so many new people to the industry.
I know when I first got a Google Cardboard, and, like, that's pretty low tech as far as VR goes, but I was in a dorm room, and I had a bunch of friends there that weren't into gaming and all, but, like, I just brought up Google Earth, and you could, like, fly around in it. And, like, for all intents and purposes, that's a game. You're just flying around Earth in VR. And I handed it to them, and they, like, had a blast with it.
Yeah. Very exciting.
Yeah. So I think lower cost VR could get people into gaming, for sure. Or at least into VR gaming.
Yeah.
So speaking of VR, a topic I wanted to discuss with you guys this week is the concept of social VR games, like VR Chat, Rec Room. I think there are some others, but those are the only two I've played. So do you guys have any experience with those at all?
VR Chat is, oh man, it's a time. I don't even have a VR, but I've seen people with VRs go all out for VR Chat, like taping motion sensing IR whatever on their feet so that their feet move in VR Chat.
Wow.
All out. Like, it's ridiculous how much people will put into that.
I personally haven't played any social VR games or anything like that, but I have read about it quite a bit, and I think it's a really interesting concept.
So,
just the notion of everyone in a VR set, you know, moving around in a space like as whatever avatar you want, I think is something that's kind of like, it's a weird, like,
novel.
almost futuristic concept that's starting to, like, emerge now.
I have beef with VR Chat. I don't think it's a very good game. I don't think it's very good.
Is it even a game? It's just
no,
like
it's not a game.
Service.
It's just
app
engine.
thing.
It's just unenjoyable to me because, like, it's not optimized well. Like, it makes my VR set lag, and, like, nothing else has yet that I've tried. So, like, the frame rate drops, I get nauseous. There's also just, like you walk in and there's just a bunch of people, and VR Chat allows people that don't have VR to play as well, like Michael was talking about. And there's just a bunch of people goofing around, like, making weird anime jokes and stuff. And I didn't find it fun at all. I didn't get immersed.
I think it's more of an experiment now than anything. But, like, I think what we have now is going to lay the seeds for, like, some really cool experiences in tech in the future, you know?
I think so. I don't have a problem with social VR, though. I have a problem with VR Chat because the other game I mentioned, Rec Room, is a ton of fun. It's probably my favorite VR game out right now, and it's free to play and cross-platform with every VR platform other than mobile VR. So basically, Rec Room is just like, it tosses you in this gymnasium, and there are a bunch of different sports you can play. Like, you can play disc golf. It teleports you to a map for that. There's soccer. There's paintball. There's laser tag, stuff like that. And there's also a couple of quests that are more like traditional games, like RPG style stuff. But the most of my time in it is spent in the lobby, and there's like a ping pong table, a dartboard, some basketball hoops, and like there's no formal scorekeeping or anything. It's just like it puts a bunch of people in this room, and you can go mess around with all these physics objects. and talk to people, and they have these avatars that you have no idea who they actually are, obviously. But it's just cool. Like, you're in public in your house, and so like.
Yeah, that's kind of the big draw for VR chat. You're in public in your house.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
The thing about like VR chat is, as Connor said, people make weird anime jokes, but that's part of the fun for some people is to, go dressed as a very, very stereotypical, like, chubby weeb kind of guy and run around making crappy anime jokes. And hopefully getting someone that looks at you and is like, I appreciate that.
See, the climate's totally different in Rec Room, because in Rec Room, I was walking around, and, like, this guy just threw a ball at me, and I caught it, and I threw it back, and I just started talking to him. Like, we just had a conversation throwing this ball back and forth.
Wait, when you say conversation, you actually spoke to him?
Yeah, like, I was just
cool.
talking, yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, the mouth moves in VR and everything when you talk, and, like...
See, I need to check this out sometime, because
it's really cool.
Just, like, it sounds so cool and weird, and...
Yeah, it's really cool, and, like, I was walking around the other day, and there's this weird balcony, and from the balcony you can see one of the basketball hoops, and like somebody was on the ground throwing balls up to this girl who was on the balcony, and this girl was trying to make a basket from the balcony, and it was like crazy hard, but like the whole lobby just gathered around watching her try to make this, and like some people went up and tried to do it as well, and some people stayed on the ground. I'm very bad at normal basketball, so VR basketball, puts me down, but like I still have fun with it. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very fun. And, like, I'll be playing paintball and stuff, and, like, you can't talk to your team unless they're right next to you because it's location-based talking. And, like, that's a problem that you don't experience in most games.
But again, it's, like, more like, it's slightly closer to reality because,
right.
Like, you can't talk to someone unless they're close to you.
And you can overhear the other team talking.
Right.
And, like, you can talk to them after you die. You, like, stand there for a minute, and you don't want to be mean to people after you killed them. Like, you want to be like, oh, God.
Yeah, like that one layer of anonymity is kind of removed when you do VR social stuff.
So, like, last night, I'm playing VR. I was playing Rec Room, and, like, I'm in my pajamas in my home, I could not be wearing pants, potentially. Like, I could be standing there just in my own house, comfortable. But at the same time, I'm in public, and I'm sitting there and, like I have to burp, and I don't because I'm in public right now.
That's like such weird cognitive dissonance.
Yeah,
That's
like I'm in a public space. I don't want to make a ton of noise.
Yeah, that's so weird. Like I just can't imagine wrapping my head around something like that.
And like I accidentally tapped my wall like pretty lightly with my controller, and I was like embarrassed because like I just did that in front of God and everybody.
Yeah. See, like I think like what we're seeing right now is definitely like the first steps into social VR. Like kind of what I predict next to happen is like this concept taken a little further, like the Nintendo's Mii Plaza, except with VR.
That exists.
Like that.
If you have Steam VR, Steam VR has something called Steam VR Home, and like normally you log into a lobby and it's just you, but you can go to anybody else's lobby and like they can launch their games from that lobby.
That's so cool.
But
you can actually walk around and interact and talk.
And these lobbies are huge. Like my default is Delfino Plaza from Super Mario Sunshine. So whenever I boot up Steam VR, I'm just standing right next to the big statue in Delfino Plaza, and I have all my games like on the statue.
That's pretty cool.
I go. There's almost always somebody hosting a big old Hyrule Field, and like you can walk around Hyrule Field from Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, wow.
And see everything. Yeah, and like, I don't know, there's a bunch of them. Like, the Rick and Morty garage, people have that up. Like, it's just wild. Anywhere you can imagine. Cool. The Star Trek bridge, the Stargate headquarters thing. Like,
see, like, we're already seeing, like, you can hang out in these cool places from, like, all sorts of different fiction in VR. Like,
honestly, all the draw of any of the VR stuff, like, social VR is there for me, too, because you can talk to people. People have an avatar. But, you don't get the anime people there that you get in VR chat, I guess. That bother me, that, like, kind of pull me out of it. Like, I like the silliness of VR chat, but I feel like there's just a bunch of people who get in there and just start screaming and stuff.
Yeah, there are some problems, obviously, right now with VR chat and social VR stuff that need to be addressed and ironed out. Like you said, like, just the trolls or whatever.
Right.
Like, I've read a couple articles on, like, certain rooms being hosted in VR chat where like someone enters and there are like some really graphic like gory images like everywhere, like
Yeah,
And
I can
like
see
that's really bad. Like obviously, like what if like a small kid had entered the room or whatever? Like you don't want to like. They need a way of like monitoring for sensitive content. But then again, how are you going to do that? Because like.
Well, there's another thing I saw. This is semi-related again, but I saw a video of somebody having a seizure in VR chat, like a real seizure. Like they had a headset on, they fell on the ground. That you can hear the sounds they're making, you can see like their body, like and everything, and like there's a bunch of like weird cartoon characters like gathered around them. Some of them are still joking around because they don't realize the severity of it because they're playing a video game, but then the people that are like that realize this is real, this is happening. Like somebody, they don't know where that person is.
You can't do anything for them.
They have no idea where.
Literally, you could be thousands of miles away from this person, and you have no idea who they are. You know, like, but you're right next to them.
I mean, the person ended up being fine,
but you're simultaneously right next to them. How crazy is that?
Yeah, and there's nothing you can like. You can't shout and get help from their house or anything because odds are they have headphones on. Like, ridiculous.
Yeah. What a crazy time to like be into video games. Yeah, honestly,
it's wild.
Like the tech, I feel like is just advancing faster and faster.
I saw. I was walking around in the rec room. The other day, and somebody was reading a poster on the wall, and I walked up next to him, and he was like, "Man, this is sad, isn't it?" And the poster said like, it was something about like changing the way people communicate, and he was like. I don't know. The way he saw it, he was like, it's sad that people are going to do this instead of communicating in person. But the way I see it, it's the opposite. Like, this supplements that, like, I don't know. When I was little, on a school night, I didn't tend to be able to go over to my friends' houses and, like, hang out with them.
I guess a lot of fears stem from the fact that, like, people are afraid maybe their kids won't develop proper social skills.
See, I would say the opposite. I would say that VR is going to make people develop better social skills. Like than Xbox Live at least. Like nobody in VR is telling me.
I agree it'll be better than Xbox Live, but there is something to be said about actually face-to-face interacting with someone. Like that's a very natural human social element that everyone needs to have while growing up.
I make eye contact when I'm talking to people in VR. I mean, like, I know that's not your point, but like there's little stuff that like I definitely do.
It'll be very interesting to see like the social aptitude of kids who were brought up on VR chat.
Yeah.
Like versus kids in our generation.
It took me forever to like be able to just walk up to somebody in VR and have a conversation. It took me a while to like work up the courage to do that because it was just so weird.
I feel like, I don't know, like personally, I feel like that'd be easier for me to do in VR than in real life if I didn't know said person, you know?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know any of these people, but then because I don't have a problem talking to people in like Counter-Strike or something because like I'm never going to see them again. They're not real. They're not like, they're just not real. But like in Rec Room, like I'm probably never going to see them again, but that's a person. That's a person standing over there, like doing whatever they're doing.
Your brain connects more dots than are actually there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I view them as a person that I'm gonna like interact with, like I'm gonna see them again in the future maybe, and that's just not true. I'm never gonna see them
and like
again.
all of those things apply to that same person in that Call of Duty lobby or whatever, you know?
Right. Yeah. But they're not. They don't
not
have a
walking
body.
around.
They're not walking around. I don't see them. Yeah, just hanging out. It's wild. I'll also say like, man, it's weird to like be standing there like afterwards and like see your opponent, like they can see you, you can talk to them and everything, and like this person just shot me, like, you know.
Oh, you mean like in
Rec Room? Yeah. Like you're standing there, I just got shot, and they just come up, they take
like laser tag or whatever.
Yeah, laser tag. They come up, they take your gun, and like, I don't know, you can't even be that mad. Like, it's like a sport. Like, you want to be a good sport. You don't want to sit there and talk trash.
I don't know. I'm personally eager to see once we get things like Arma into VR.
There's already a PUBG clone.
Like, that'd be brutal. It'd bring everything that I like about Arma, which is the fact that it's really visceral, and make it even worse in a way.
I don't know. I don't think Arma will get brought. Like, VR already brings so much realism. Like, all the different crouching and stuff that was like a huge deal that Arma had, like all the different things you could do with your gun and all. A VR first-person shooter is going to have all that anyway because it has to.
The thing about Arma is that people already get something that tracks their head movements so that they can look around in game much easier. So VR isn't a real big step for them versus like Call of Duty. A VR Call of Duty would be insane. A VR Arma would be, oh, hey, now I don't have to buy this expensive head tracking headset.
VR Call of Duty, I don't know if that can happen, honestly. The more I think about it, like...
I'm sure people will figure out a way to do it.
The thing about it is, like, when I'm playing Rec Room, I'm shooting paintballs at somebody, but that's another person. Like, I know that's another person, and I'm shooting them with paintballs.
Grab a machine gun and just blast them in the head.
Blowing the brains out of somebody that I know for sure is a real person. Like, I'm watching them move and walk around for real, and then shooting them. I don't know. Like,
that might be an interesting line we don't want to cross. Getting people more comfortable with actually doing that.
Yeah, definitely not with realistic graphics. Like, because it's one thing in like VR Skyrim where like they're not real. They're NPCs. You can swing a sword at them. It's not that big a deal. Like,
yeah,
but
that might like revitalize the whole argument against games. That's kind of been seeing some resurgence now with like gun control and all of that.
Yeah, and I think it's a load of baloney right now, but like with VR and
they'll have more fuel in their tank.
Definitely. And honestly, I mean they will have an argument, I think, once VR is mainstream with kids and stuff.
We'll see.
I think as long as we have games, there's going to be people who are morally panicking about them. So
I mean, as long as we have media.
That, yeah. But anyways, we kind of got off topic there. Any final thoughts for social VR?
I don't know. If you have a VR headset and you haven't tried it out, you really, really, really need to. Because it's probably the best experience out there right now.
He's directing that at me.
My final thought is, do you know D-Way? That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. For people who don't know, the whole Ugandan Knuckles meme.
All of you got VR chat was all Knuckles for like 2 months.
That originated in VR chat and like exploded onto the internet.
Like the Ugandan warrior kind of thing, it originated with Forsen in PUBG, I think. And then they went to VR chat and took a model of Knuckles from, like, a Greg, or like, what was his name? It was Greg something, or something Greg. Animation that he did for a review of Sonic Boom. And then they 3D modeled that and rolled it into VR chat. So.
It's a wild ride.
Yeah, clearly, as you just heard, there are pros and cons. So anyways, our last topic is going to be tabletop games. Tabletop games aren't video games, but a lot of core video game design philosophies have been lifted from tabletop games, and they're very important. And without them, I don't think we'd have video games in the way we do today.
Yeah, and I also feel like tabletop RPGs specifically are making a real comeback. Like, D&D isn't seen as something you're like a huge nerd for doing anymore. I think it's, I mean, maybe you are, but like that's not a bad thing anymore. Like,
well, just in general, being a huge nerd is more socially acceptable now.
Yeah, so I think tabletop games, like I don't know that many people that haven't tried D&D, which is short for the layman, short for Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I've only played one game of D&D before, but I absolutely loved it. Yeah, it's very minimalist. I mean, it's like playing an RPG, like an RPG video game, except you have to imagine like the combat and like the movement and like the story beats. There's a facilitator, the dungeon master, who like kind of guides your party through the story, but like the combat is all done through dice rolls, and inherently that might sound like a bad or boring thing, but like your imagination really kicks into gear when you start one of these things, and you feel invested.
Right, and like you can, at first when people first start playing, there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, I attack or something. But like eventually, as you've played a little more, you're more creative, and you're like thinking like, oh, well, what in my environment could I use to my advantage? Because anything within reason, like you can do. There's nothing. There are no like. There's no, they didn't program it in, so you can't do it.
Yeah, the only restriction is your own imagination.
Right.
Yeah. And the rules of the world you're in.
Like, you could quite literally just banish the final boss of the game and win. Like, if you're a powerful enough warlock, the DM can't say, no, you can't banish him, because you can banish him. You just have to get luck on that dice roll. And if you do banish him, then the DM's now confused as to what to do.
Yeah, and there are all kinds of, like, if you want to, you can really make your DM mad, which is short for Dungeon Master. You can make your DM mad by, like, going off track on the story, because really, if you have a fun DM, like, you don't have to follow their story exactly. There can be more open-ended stuff. And, like, it can be as complicated or as simple as you want it to be. Like Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, which is what I would recommend any new player get into right now. And then maybe branch out from there if you're into it. But it's so simple. Like, if you have help making a character, you don't really have to learn a game, because your turn comes around and you'll say what you want to do, and then your dungeon master is going to tell you what rolls you have to make to do it, because it's not very difficult. Like, especially if you're playing a character that doesn't use magic, most of the stuff you'll be doing is like, like not super complicated
like
rules-wise.
Yeah,
roll a d20.
The thing about magic is, like, a simple fireball spell is a handful of dice.
Right,
to roll damage.
So if you want that complicated experience, you can play a magic user and have to learn all this stuff, and potentially be more powerful because of it in the game. But you can play and have a ton of fun with a very simple rule set as like a fighter or a barbarian.
And you can even adapt the systems, like D&D systems, to other universes.
Right, and even then, there's a tabletop RPG for anything. Like, there's one for, like, simulating, like, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer or a supernatural type, kind of setting in a game. There's one for that. There are Fallout RPGs out there.
Yeah, like, a group of me and the other speedrunners of BioWare games got a DM off Reddit, and we're adapting Stars Without Numbers, which is a old-school kind of style sci-fi tabletop game. We're adapting it to Mass Effect and running it through that. And, like, it's insane what you can do.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to bring up, if you haven't played one of these before, you'll find that when you do, like, everyone who's playing, all of their creativity and imagination really comes to the forefront when you play, and really shapes a unique experience to that group you're playing with.
Yeah, it definitely, like, no two groups I've played with have had the same atmosphere, really.
Yeah.
Like, the group I played with you, Ahmed, like, that was probably my favorite so far, because, like, we were all just kind of bouncing off of each other pretty effectively. But I've also been in groups where, like, our characters don't get along or something, and, like, maybe we don't get along in real life, but that just, it adds to the game in a way sometimes. Like,
yeah. Like, everything you bring with you when you start a D&D session shapes the way that session works.
Right, because, like, I don't know, you decide which rules you want to follow. It's a board game, There's nothing rigid. Like, if you want to make up rules to make something possible, then you can talk with your DM and make it happen, You can do anything you want.
Yeah, your DM, if he thinks an ability is too powerful, it's like, change that so it's only once a day or whatever. Like, I've had that happen to me where I was playing a race that was added in, like, a supplement. It was like a cat person race, and they had the ability to get a free, like, massive amount of movement every other combat turn. And it was decidedly broken. So the DNC was just told me that's a once a day thing now. Because it was broken.
Yeah.
I could move halfway across the game, the 18 spaces in no time at all.
And and another thing, like, my character's backstory, like, I wanted him to have proficiency in a particular weapon, and nothing in the rules, like, really facilitated that. But it wasn't, like, something that would have made him overpowered. It wasn't even a weapon I intended to use a lot. I just kind of, like, I wanted the character to have it because it made sense given the story I'd given him. And so I talked to our DM, and he was like, yeah, sure, it's not a big deal. Like, he took something else away from me, I think. I forget what. But it was, it was a fair trade. It felt balanced. None of us, nobody was upset, because it's not like you're playing against other players.
Yeah, having a good DM, I think, is the key to having a good experience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
D&D.
And kind of developing your own story. Like, when we were making characters for the Mass Effect Stars Without Numbers play, me and another character and one of the other guys, we theory crafted that I was, as a Krogan, was the father to this Asari somewhere down the line, and we built an entire backstory just off a one-off comment.
I don't think that's biologically possible.
Yes, it is. Asari can mate with anybody. They're an all-female race.
I forgot
so
about that.
really,
yeah, that's true.
And a
like
sorry
the
dad could be
Gerudos.
anything. Yeah. A sorry dad could be a jellyfish. As long as they're sentient, it's fine.
Jellyfish aren't sentient.
The Hannah are.
Oh.
And they're jellyfish.
Okay.
There are sentient jellyfish.
I just kind of wanted to revisit the idea of like creativity during D&D games. I've heard of like a lot of content creators, like people who've written books, like movies, video games, all based off of stuff that has happened in a D&D session.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Just the places that D&D game took them was so compelling and interesting.
And
Like, it gave them fuel for their next piece of art they wanted to create.
There's so much you can do, like, as a player, even not as a DM, like, just being creative, like, some powers you can get in the game just don't seem particularly useful. But, like, if you're in the right mindset, they can be. Like, there's a spell called Mage Hand that's, like, something you can use pretty regularly. I forget how many times a day. I haven't played in a while, so my knowledge of the rules is a little rusty right now. But it lets you use telekinesis on something less than 5 pounds. And that doesn't seem like something that's ever going to be useful in combat, really. But I was able to grab 5 pounds of hot ash out of a fire and throw them in somebody's face. And that's not nothing, for sure. I mean, 5 pounds of hot ash is a lot. Like, stuff like that, it's just like creative problem solving can really... And if you have a good DM, they'll reward that kind of creativity a lot.
Yeah, just talking about this makes me want to go back and do it again.
Yeah, I miss it. I miss it a lot. I haven't had a chance to play in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely... I don't know. I feel like to people who haven't tried it before, like, it doesn't sound, like, inherently appealing.
Right.
But, like, I really have to encourage everyone who's into video games, at least, to just give it a shot.
Or at least everybody that's into RPGs. Like,
I'd like that better. Everyone who's into RPGs would really kind of relate to, enjoy, and definitely have, like, a really creative session if they gave it a shot.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So we're going to end the show with talking about games we played. But also, this episode marks our 1-year anniversary since we started the show. So I kind of wanted us to also, in addition to talking about what we've been playing, talk about maybe our favorite game of the past year and like maybe whatever game experiences shaped your last year and that stood out to you. And I guess I'll start. I've been playing a game called A Way Out. And A Way Out is it's a game with a very interesting mechanic. It can only be played with 2 people. So if you don't have anyone to play it with, it'll match you up with someone online. The story of this game involves 2 guys who are in prison and basically form a plan to bust out and what they do once they get out. In the most vague of terms. But I found the game super interesting. It's not very long. It can be finished in a couple sessions. Just the way that game uses co-op, I haven't really seen that in a game before that I've played. Both players are playing simultaneously for the majority of the game. And obviously what one player does affects the other, and like sometimes one player gets into a situation only the other player can help them out of, and both people have to creatively solve problems and execute on things to make the story move forward. And the story is pretty interesting on its own too. So it's a nice hook to keep playing. And I will say that there's like a twist around the end that kind of really made the game stand out in my mind and make it like very memorable for me. And as a hint, I'll just say that twist would not be possible if the co-op system was not in place. So, yeah, I mean, just the co-op nature of the game made that twist possible and made it extremely effective.
That sounds interesting. I definitely wish there were more co-op games around right now. So that's good to hear that there are some. I can't comment on this game because I know you're trying to not be huge on spoilers.
Yeah, let's just all go through what we played, and then we can circle back around. So,
okay,
Michael?
Oh, well, EU4 is actually really good, surprisingly, for being set.
What is EU4?
Europa Universalis is the
Oh,
fourth
Europa
one,
Universalis. Yeah, I've heard of that.
It's set in pre-colonial Europe, so right around the time colonialism starts, and it ends.
I was this close to buying that game on Steam.
Yeah,
but,
it starts
sorry, go ahead.
in the 1800s. It ends in the 1800s, starts in the 1400s. So you have like a 300-year span, 400-year span to basically turn your country into a global superpower. And it has some in-depth mechanics, you know. Like, eventually you get to go over to America and start colonizing, and you could have, say, Irish Caribbean if you really wanted to. Or Irish.
Is it like Civilization, but like on steroids and more confined time-wise?
It's on steroids and more combined, and all real time. There's no turn-based.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
It's all real time.
So how long does it take?
Hours long. It takes at least a day to do a session or more.
Wow, that's a lot. So it's not something you should play through all in one
Nope.
sitting. Okay.
Because 100 years is like 2-3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Even at the fastest speed, it still takes a while to go through those 400 years.
That's crazy.
So it's not a game you can sit down and finish in a day. You need weeks
Okay.
to finish it.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like something like once I get tired of Civ 6, I would probably jump into it.
There definitely is a learning curve, and it's probably one of the easier ones to learn in Crusader Kings. Hearts of Iron is just a mess to learn. Well, it's not actually that hard to learn either. None of them are hard to learn. They just take some time.
Michael? Or
I'm Connor.
Yeah, Connor?
I'm torn. I kind of want to talk about Rec Room, but I already did that. So I'll go The Witness. So my girlfriend has been really wanting to play The Witness, so I picked it up for us to play through this last weekend. We didn't beat it, but we played through a good bit of it, probably about 70%. And it's really cool. It's by Jonathan Blow, the same guy who did Braid. And it really kind of asks, it answers the question, how far can you take one puzzle mechanic? Like, because the whole game is just these little line puzzles. Like, other than saying that, it's hard to describe them. But, like, you move through all these new areas, and, like, every area has kind of a theme of what type of line puzzle you're going to find there. And you figure out the rules of that theme, and you have to, like, solve them. And then about halfway through, he'll usually throw in some sort of weird twist. And you have to keep solving them. And I'm not as big on puzzles as she is, but it's, like, this game is really cool to me as a designer, even, like, looking at it. It interests me a lot, because there are parts of this game that you genuinely, I can't even imagine playing through them without a pen and paper. Like, we had to draw out a map to, like, map out the area, because the look of the area affected whether or not we could take a certain path on the line puzzle, if that makes any sense. Like, there was a maze in the world that was not inside the puzzle, sort of stuff like that. So we had to map everything out, and it was just very cool. Like, all these different puzzles, like, I think I've seen everything, and it surprises me every step of the way.
Yeah, that echoes a lot of what I've heard about The Witness. And another thing, too, it's a gorgeous game.
Oh, it is. It's
like,
beautiful.
You're wandering around, like, at least in the initial stages, like this giant outdoor environment, and the colors are so vibrant.
Right, it is. It's very good, and there are a couple of very nice views and everything, and the environment's just it's very weird. It almost gives me a Dark Souls-ish vibe in a couple of ways, because there's all these, like, people just turned into stone around, and you don't know why, and I don't know that you ever figure out why. I'll say that if you're not into puzzles, like, don't bother, because the game really doesn't, like, you solve puzzles, and your reward for that is more puzzles. There's nothing to the game other than the puzzles and the neat environment that facilitates them. I wouldn't suggest it to somebody who's into narrative or anything like that, because you'll just be disappointed. But if you like line puzzles, you're gonna love this game.
That's what I've heard about The Witness.
Very specific niche.
And that's my main criticism, is that it's just line puzzles. But I applaud it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
sticking to it.
It's fun. I like it, but I don't know if I would have bought it if I didn't have someone else who wanted to play it with me.
Okay. So now let's just, like, we don't have to go in turns or anything, but just talk about, like, games that kind of shaped our last year.
I mean, it didn't release in the time frame that we want to talk about, but I think the elephant in the room for you and I it is Breath of the Wild. It came out.
Didn't it release in the time? Oh,
it released in March.
Oh wow.
And we're well into April.
That's crazy. Yeah, because our first episode was talking about Breath of the Wild.
Right, and that game has been incredibly. I'm still playing it. It's been a year, and I played it for 2 hours yesterday.
Gift that keeps on giving. I mean, Nintendo, like, I can't overstate the influence this game is going to have. Like, this game will shape the way people design their games for the next decade. I would say at least.
I think so. Although I keep looking back and seeing other games that did some of the stuff that Breath of the Wild does, but none of them did it all together and so well. You know, Nintendo really put it all together. Yeah.
Just kind of going back, like a recent big one for me is Civilization VI. I'm sure, Mike, it has been for you too.
Not as big as say like Overwatch or Warframe, but
yeah. I mean, obviously, another big elephant in the room, Fortnite.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Fortnite and PUBG both.
Yeah, Fortnite and PUBG. This is the year that Battle Royale took over the world.
I think Donkey, it was just today, Video Game Donkey released a video, and the whole joke of the video, it's like 2.5 minutes long or something, and I don't think he shows the same game twice. Like, but he's pretending he's talking about, like he's just not showing footage from the right game. That's the joke of the video. And he's talking about all these different battle royales and how they're obviously not copying off of each other. You know?
No, but that's another huge thing that'll define the next sort of era of gaming.
Oh,
battle royales.
I think that's probably the next big genre.
And it absolutely is, and that came into prominence within the last year. I mean, Fortnite, talking specifically, Fortnite's been around since like 2013.
Yeah, but not Battle Royale.
Yeah, but in its
Battle Royale
in its earliest iterations, it was there. But and now the latest form of Fortnite is the Battle Royale. But it's just crazy to me to think this game has been in existence and it's still in early access.
It's hard to think that the Battle Royale portion of Fortnite took them 6 months.
Yeah, because they already had all the assets from Save the World.
Yeah,
and it's become immensely popular on a development time of 6 months.
Yeah, it's wild, but it's so fun.
And Battle Royale, though, had been sitting in the background, kind of simmering for years. Like, ever since H1Z1 released their Battle Royale, way back, like 2014, 2016, somewhere in there.
Really? And nobody cared.
Yeah, because the original Battle Royale was an Arma 3 mod.
Yeah.
And people were playing it then, and then stuff like the culling came out, and there was a little tiny wave of Battle Royales that came out.
And then
PUBG came out.
The people who do new things first are almost never the most successful.
Yeah.
And I don't have an issue with all these clones coming out either. Personally, I played one just yesterday called Radical Heights. It's like just come out. It's by the same developers as Lawbreakers, I think, and it was terrible. I had no fun at all. But it had some really cool mechanics that like the others don't have that they could have. Like instead of a shrinking circle, the map was a grid, and certain areas of the grid would get disabled. So like it creates routes. Like it would create these hallways even.
I think Darwin Project does the same thing, where they close off like a section of the map.
Yeah.
And you won't take damage. So eventually you'll be pushed towards the center, but you can they close down the outer portions of the map.
But anyways,
yeah, I don't want to linger on this too long because we have other big games
so
to talk
like
about.
Battle Royales, Fortnite and PUBG in particular.
Well, I want to give a mention to Super Mario Odyssey, A Hat in Time, the Spyro trilogy got announced.
Kind of like the Crash trilogy, I believe, got released in the same time.
Although I wouldn't really put that in the same
resurgence of like
3D platformers.
The
although I
3D
wouldn't consider
platformers.
Crash really a collectathon 3D platformer, is it?
It's not. I don't.
So
well,
I don't
actually,
really.
The first one isn't. At least I haven't.
I don't really put it in the same vein as like A Hat in Time and Super Mario Odyssey.
I guess it's in the same vein as those like wacky animated PS1 era
Right.
Like that seems to be a trend going forward, like bringing those back.
But A Hat in Time and Super Mario Odyssey both came out and were very successful, and I hope that like is a return to form, not just for Nintendo, not just for Gears for Breakfast, I think they're called, that did A Hat in Time, but like
for the genre.
Yeah, I want that genre to make a resurgence because A Hat in Time is the most adorable game I think I've ever played, just through and through. Like no game has made me like. I don't know how to describe the feeling I had, but it was just like so adorable looking at these environments. And I intend to play. There's a DLC coming out for that game, and I already know I'm gonna play it the second it comes out, and I'm gonna releasing a co-op mode that'll be huge. And those two games I just think are gonna be very formative.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. A lot of the games I want to talk about fall just outside the period.
Right, Breath
Like,
of the Wild. For
Horizon
instance,
came
yeah.
out in February 2017.
Yeah.
Um,
We started.
I
at a
mean,
bad
we
time.
had to talk about, but Breath of the Wild is an exception. That's the kind of what we started the podcast on. So,
Right, and the Switch in general.
what came out last fall that was of consequence?
I mean, I could talk about Overwatch, since Overwatch technically just keeps coming out with every new update.
Oh,
They
Skyrim
absolutely
was
huge.
released last fall.
Yeah, Skyrim was released.
Again.
Again. I could talk about Overwatch because, they keep updating that game, even though it's almost 2 years old now.
Well, Overwatch is one of those games that's just, it's a platform.
It's not going anywhere.
It's not going to go anywhere.
Much like every Blizzard game, really.
Yeah.
And they
Except
just
Diablo.
released a new PvE mode, and since this year last time they released Uprising, which was a PvE mode that displayed a lot of lore. This year they released Uprising and Retribution, which is a completely new PvP mode with new characters that you play and a new map.
Really?
Yeah, so you play as the Blackwatch squad, which is McCree, Moira, Reaper, and who's the last one? Genji. Instead of an Uprising, you played as Reinhardt, Mercy, Torbjorn, and Tracer, who are doing something completely different, like 3 weeks after Uprising takes place. So
yeah, Blizzards are just masters of what they do. Like, they're so good at sustaining games.
Destiny 2 came out and died.
Yeah, that's something of note. I
Yeah,
mean,
Destiny
it's
2
still
came
technically alive. They're still updating it, but like no one's playing it.
yeah,
Sea of Thieves
came out and
did its thing.
did its thing.
Oh, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, I think, did a little bit for the mobile industry.
A little.
Oh, you know what? Hugely formative for the mobile industry is probably Fortnite mobile and PUBG mobile
Absolutely.
coming out. That'll be huge.
It's greatly formative for the microtransaction market. That came out in the last year. We spent an entire episode complaining about it. Battlefront 2.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe we almost forgot about that one.
Yeah, goodness. The
whole
debate brought up by
the
Battlefront
EA
2, the loot box.
controversy. Yeah.
It's been a big year for games. 2016 and 2017 both, really, were huge.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the EA thing in particular, like, after seeing what happened to Battlefront, you haven't seen any games recently come out that have implemented a similar...
They're getting removed from Shadow of War.
So...
Good, because I heard the third act of Shadow of War was just one massive
So
grind.
far, I mean, it hasn't been very long, but so far it seems like the negative backlash to that has had good effects on the industry.
Pretty soon, we're going to do another E3 episode, too.
Yeah.
And hope that comes out before E3 this year. God, we've not been good with getting episodes out in a timely manner.
So that's all that really did anything for me this year.
I feel like I'm missing something, but I can't think of anything right now.
There was no Uncharted game this year, was there?
Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. I don't know if that came in.
Nothing spectacular though, I don't think.
It was very good.
Yeah, but it was Uncharted, right? And it
Yeah.
didn't shake anything up. It was just good because it's Uncharted.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dwarf Fortress updated this year, because Dwarf Fortress updating is a major thing, because that only happens once every 2 years.
I'm still playing DF16, I think. 2016.
Yeah, I think 2016 is the last big version, but I think there was an update this year or something. Like he's working on it just very slowly because it's one man and like a $32,000 budget.
Sonic Mania happened.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Sonic Mania.
And sort of brought Sonic
Massive
back from
return
the
to form.
brink.
Yeah. Sonic Forces also happened.
The brink of mediocrity.
Yeah. He's not back. Sonic Forces happened as well.
Yeah, Sonic
that's
Forces
true.
was.
But Sonic Mania
But
was
Sonic
amazing.
Mania proved that Sonic could be good in the right hands.
I mean,
which is something that wasn't evident at the time.
I can sit down and if I have a couple of minutes, sometimes I'll sit down and I'll just throw on Sonic Mania and play through its Green Hill Zone again. Just because it's fun to play for a couple minutes, even though I know that level like the back of my hand. I've played it so many times. But that's the beauty of Sonic levels, I think. They're so replayable.
Something else I want to just give a shout out to, Cuphead came out in September.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh yeah, and gave us that great.
That was
soundtrack.
a very fresh take on a 2D action platformer.
Yeah, Boss Rush.
Yeah.
2D shoot 'em up.
I also want to give out a shout out to Assassin's Creed Origins, which
Oh yeah.
is
another return
sort
to
of,
form.
Yeah, a return to form and a redefinition of what it means to be an Assassin's Creed game.
Oh yeah, I forgot Wolfenstein 2 came out too.
I haven't played it. I feel like it kind of whimpered. It didn't have the huge impact the first one did.
Persona 5 came out in April, so it kind of barely makes the cutoff.
Yeah, but there wasn't a lot of stuff we could talk about that one other than their streaming shut off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the company said no streaming after this point because we don't want any spoilers.
Yeah, that was a bit of a controversy, but the game itself was phenomenal. Like, definitely an easy game of the year candidate for 2017. But yeah, I mean, I think that's about everything in terms of major events and major games within the last year. Unless you have anything else to add?
No.
No.
Well, I mean, I don't know when they came out, but my first experiences with VR were in that time, and that's been huge for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that's kind of shook gaming to the very core. Like EA happened.
Yeah. 2017 was supposed to be the year of VR, I think.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? And that only sort of happened. But it did happen a little.
But it's laying a foundation, which I think is the most important thing.
It did not grow VR a lot.
And VR, I mean, they're still relevant. Like, we had a VR topic today. I mean, there's always new stuff to talk about with VR because it's growing so quickly.
Right.
And I'm sure we'll have more topics in the future, too.
This is also, I think 2017 was also the year where Steam machines finally died.
They're still for sale.
I think most of them are gone now.
No, they're new.
I could have swore they took them off the Steam page, though.
They didn't. They took They don't have a front page spot anymore.
Yeah.
But they are still for sale, and they still exist.
I don't know anyone that's ever bought a Steam machine, honestly, or uses Steam OS.
Yeah, Steam OS is garbage.
Because Steam made a mistake there. I'm not going to get into it, but that was a mistake. But at the time, it seemed like a great idea because Windows 8 was out, and Windows 8 was a heaping garbage fire for everything. But now we have Windows 10, and we're all fine and dandy again.
I'm being spied on. But that's unrelated.
That's unrelated.
What?
Being spied on with Windows 10.
Oh, okay.
At least it runs games well.
Right now, I looked outside. I was like, what's happening?
It's a meme with grounds in reality.
But anyways, yeah, I think that covers most of, what has happened since we started the podcast.
Yeah, it's been a big year.
So, yeah, I think we'll end it here, and hopefully we'll have our second year be even better.
Yep.
Hopefully.
All right. See you next time, guys.